Hello, all of you beautiful beings of light. Yes, it's been a long time since I've done a live show. For those of you who've been following me for a while, you know I took the summer off to experience what it's like to be a traveling teacher. I've been saying for the last 12 years that I know I'm here to be a traveling teacher, and I got to experience that over the summer. I never knew where I was going to be, where I would be staying, what room I would be in. So I got to experience what that was like. And for the next few weeks, I'm at home. Then I'm going to be doing some more traveling. And I'm committing now to getting my show back on the road and up and running again and bringing you really extraordinary guests. And in the future, we are going to dive into deeper subjects, more fearless and free subjects. And so my website, Fearless and Free TV, is in the process of being built so we can live stream over there without any concerns of whether these other platforms will maintain these shows or not, if you know what I mean. And so that's what I've been up to. And I've got a great conversation for you today. For those of you who are accustomed to guests and questions and things like that, that's not how I work. I have conversations. And today I'm having a really interesting conversation with a longtime Facebook friend. And today we are actually meeting face to face, if you will. So please welcome my longtime Facebook friend, new live friend, Cindy Ruggiero. We've got some interesting stuff we're going to be talking about.
Hello, Victoria. How are you?
It's so nice to meet you live and in person.
Yes, nice to meet you live and in person too.
So we have some really leading edge subjects that we're going to be talking about today. Some of this stuff might be new for some of my viewers and some of it might be old news for some of my viewers, but it is news that people need to understand. And before we get into that, I would love for just to get to know you a little bit better. Off camera, I was joking that you're the real cat lady. So why don't you tell people what that is? Because you said you were in Hollywood for 30 years.
Yes. So me and my husband are both cat lovers. And 30 years ago, we started rescuing cats. And we ended up with 30 cats that we had to support. And we never got a 501c. And the cats were discovered because they're the most lovable, affectionate. Everybody who knows my cats knows that they're special. They don't act like normal cats. They're all emotional support cats. They're just different, where they can actually perform in different movies, and all the people would have to do is ask them. So what happened is somebody seen how lovable my cats were and mentioned, did you ever think of the cats supporting themselves through doing shows in New York? And I said, well, how do I do this? So I went on a thing with my son to New York. It was 30 years ago, and it was for the Alf movie. So that's where it started. And the cat, her name was Angel. And when we walked in, she was just so lovable, and she was walking from room to room. And this was a huge office building that had all the soap operas and all different TV shows going on different floors, and it was all different studios. And my cat was walking around greeting everybody, and she was walking into dressing rooms where they were doing makeup and stuff on people, and she'd jump right up on their lap and start purring, and I'd be like, oh, I'm sorry, and they'd say, no, leave her there, this is so calming. So from there it just took off, and everybody was calling for the cats. They knew them by name. There was a particular one. Her name was Six, SYXX. And that was because she had 6 toes. This cat literally had more friends than I did. She had a bigger wardrobe than me. She became so famous that there's a thing out on the internet where she was dating James Franco, the famous movie star. And everybody just loved her so much. She had passed. She was 13 years old and had died from cancer. And right before that happened, we had lost our house due to tornadoes, deco storms, straight line winds, 15,000 pound, 150 foot black walnut trees fell on our house, destroyed the entire thing. After that, Allstate. Well, I shouldn't mention the insurance company, but anyway, somehow the adjusters and contractors ended up with all the money and we didn't get nothing. And they gutted our house and took everything and left us living in trailers around the property. And the cats have the best trailer of all, because when you're a movie star, that's what you can afford. You end up with your own trailer. So the cats got this big, beautiful 44-foot trailer with 2 slide outs, big spinning wheel in the center they can run in, 2 big screen TVs so they can watch their shows. And they're doing great. But since then, they had retired many years ago because the most famous one had died, and I still have all our grandchildren and relatives, and we're supporting 30 cats the best we can, but we love them, and I couldn't live without them. So that's one of my main stories. That's my life. I became really involved in rescuing.
Okay. So you said off camera that your cats actually did the catwalk and that they were famous. They hung out with movie stars.
Oh my God. Yeah, they were getting calls from everyone. They were on The Angriest Man in Brooklyn with Robin Williams. They did a show with Ralph Macchio. He was so cool. He asked me out for, a drink afterwards. And I said, I don't drink, but you can buy me an ice cream. And I hung out in New York with Ralph for a little while. And then we were on the Kevin James show and the Amy Schumer show. And we got to do, it was called Fashion Week in New York. And, I'm a bit of a 60s hippie by heart. And I went, it was a family thing that we did together, like a hobby, and the cats just supported themselves because there was no, 501c or anything to do it. And we got a call to see if our cats could walk down the runway with Tracy Reese during Fashion Week with her models. It was so fun. They trained at the Ritz, and the cats did absolutely amazing. We had this cat named Lily, and she was declawed when we got her. And she was held by the models walking down the runway. And of course, she got adopted right after the show. But she made a big hit, and it was just so much fun. I'll share one funny part of that story. So I was sitting in the front row with Tracy Reese, and she's very popular, very famous, and her models are walking down the runway with my cats, and she had told my husband to go off in this little side room and set up the cages and cat in there. Different cats that we had. So during break, I figured I'd go in and check on my husband. And I go in and I walk in and he's got his head stuck in a cage, petting the cat, afraid to look around. And I look around and it's the model's dressing room that they put him in. Yep. He was in the model's dressing room and they're all walking around shirtless and like they're a lot taller than him. And he said he was afraid to even look up out of the cat cage.
Because he don't know where he was.
Oh yeah, he had a great time at that. But we were on the Stephen Colbert show. It was called the Colbert Report show at that time because it was a long time ago. And my cat Six played a scientist. And she had to find the missing Malaysia flight. And she put her paw right on the spot where the missing Malaysia flight was. Ironically, they found it there 2 months later, which was, they talked a lot about. And then she was actually called back to Stephen Colbert Report for like 4 times. He even took her to late night when he went to late night. And she even ran against Obama as president. She played Catwoman's cats on Gotham. Yeah, I really missed that cat. She meant a lot to all of us.
So you were around the entertainment industry for a long time, and I'm sure you are aware of what really goes on behind the scenes. And I know I experienced some of that myself when I was here. Well, I came to Hollywood in 1988 thinking I was going to be an actress, right? And I started to discover some things happening in the film industry that I wanted absolutely nothing to do with. sexual favors that were asked of me and what I was told I would need to do in order to succeed in the industry. So I wanted nothing to do with it. Although in 2012, I was told it's time for me to get back in, and I fought that tooth and nail until I finally realized it's to be a part of the new conscious entertainment industry. So tell me a little bit about what you discovered going on behind the scenes that might apply to what some of us are understanding today about what really happens in the entertainment industry.
Well, I'll tell you, like when it came to the cats and they had an agent, it's really cutthroat. It is a cutthroat industry. Um, it's always like the highest bidder and this and that. And, you know, we were just for the love of the cats and would basically whatever was fun and if it was near us and we'd even volunteer a lot. So like I'm trying to think like what exactly was your question again? Oh, the inside of it. So there was
The
a
dark
lot of
side of the
things.
entertainment industry.
Yeah, no, there was a lot of flirting, of course. A lot of it seemed like fun, but then there was a couple of shows that we were on that seemed to me like the cast, the people that worked the closest to the performers were really mistreated. Um, I really like James Franco. He's a nice guy. He was great to me. He absolutely loved my cat, obviously. They were dating. But yeah, he flirted with everybody, you know. Uh, I seen it as, no big deal. I heard a lot of rumors about him. He was really nice to me. That's all I got to say. But when it came to his employees, he liked scaring them. He rented the Elder Manor, and it was like this big haunted mansion. And it was so cool because me and my cat, we got to walk around and stroll the entire place. He got us a suite on the top floor. And his workers were kind of scared of him, but he liked that. He liked to be in control. And like for example, like we were doing he was working with the cat, and it was a scene where it was a crazy scene because it was called The Cat Father. Maybe you should check it out. And it was like a spoof uh show. And so he had everybody wanted to see the last shoot, and they all brought their chairs in and they all sat down, and then he started screaming at them all, "What are you all doing in here? What do you think you're doing? You can't be in here!" Like after everybody sat up and sat down, so they all scrambled and they were running and trying to get out the door and trying to clean up, and he was laughing. And like they all scurried out the door and he shut the door and he was laughing. He thought that was cute. I thought it was kind of funny, but that's like how they are in Hollywood. They like want that control. They want to kind of scare people, but it's like behind the scenes they're like after that power, I think.
So you didn't see any of the satanic or sexual practices that people are talking about now. That's finally coming out from under wraps.
Well, I mean, we talk about it a lot. So when we would be on the sets, everybody seems to have a common interest in, the Illuminati, um, the world, order, and the plans that were going to be happening. It seems to me, and this is the truth, they know what's going to happen before it happens.
Right.
Somehow, there's something that they're connected to. Because we did the Cats. They did this show back in 2015, and it was called Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, Doomsday Video. So it's 2015, and it was the End of the World video. And in the End of the World video, our cats, there was 6 of them, and they were in the Cat Scratch Saloon. So they were all dressed up, and our one cat was playing a piano. Our other cat was smoking catnip and playing poker with cowboy hat on. And 6 was a bartender and shooting drinks down the bar. And our other cat, Simba, who we found a home for, she was waving a little handkerchief on the staircase, She was the night girl, I guess. And it was just a really cute, setup. And that was what you were going to see at the end of the world. But before that, they said, how will the world end? Will it end from genetically modified dinosaurs? Now, I don't think they had them in 2015, but I'm pretty sure they have them now. Or they said, will it be a genetically modified virus or a pandemic? And they showed COVID-19. They showed the red COVID balls with all the spikes coming out of the red floating on the screen. This was 2015.
Oh, that's interesting. They had already been working the genetically modified dinosaurs. We saw that in the movies, right? They've been talking about that for a while. Jurassic Park and Jurassic.
Well, now they're doing it. Now they're literally doing it.
That's really interesting. I think they've been doing it for a while.
Yeah, well, now
what's really interesting is that
allowed to do it.
Yeah, well, they kind of got put out into the open when they started talking about cloning the sheep, right? So it's now it's pretty common knowledge that cloning is real. Modifying genes, they've been talking about modifying genes, so it's not really a secret anymore.
Oh yeah,
although
they're pets now.
Yeah, and there probably are people that would like to have their pets cloned, It's interesting. I know that show really well. It's actually one of my son's favorite shows. He watches it all the time. So I'll have to go back and see if we can find that one. That'd be interesting. And I do know that they have access to the plan. One, Hollywood is the dark side of the contrast is required to show us what their plan is. It's a way they're getting around the concept of free will choice. So if they tell us what the plan is and we don't balk at it, they can back and say, well, we told you this was coming and nobody balked at it. It's a way of getting around, they think, getting around free will choice. And we know that's not going to be the case because any person who is responsible for free will choice is the prime directive on our planet. Anybody who breaks that law is going to be held accountable to it. But right now, all these people think they're getting away with it. So there's that. And it's really interesting because as far as I know, 2015 is when they actually patented both the virus and the cure. Let's put it that way. So it's no surprise to me that was actually put out there in advance. Because
I personally, no doubt, this is a weapon of mass destruction. They've tried this before. They've tried it with Lyme's didn't work, so they had to create the Lone Star tick disease, which I actually have. And what that did, which I consider it forced evolution now, made me allergic to dairy, red meat, gluten, and sulfates. Maybe we're not supposed to have those things anyway. There's a lot of poisoning done to the world right now. There is a big plan. It's called Agenda 21. A lot of people believe it, a lot of people don't, but it's right there. They can look it up. It's for sustainable environment. And it's a plan that they want accomplished by 2030. And I really feel that the Georgia Guidestones was an inside job to wake up the other maybe 80% of the people that had no idea that it was written in stone in 7 different languages, warning humanity about what they were about to do. And they've been put up since March 22nd, 1980. It's not like they just got put there. They've been there for a long time.
Well, the plan has been around for a long time. Actually, so here's one of the things that I was shown. That the dark side of the contrast uses the word agenda, and the side of light uses the word plan. So it's a really easy way, even though these two realities look almost identical. If you look at the 2030 agenda and it's on the United Nations website, if you take the time to actually read through it and understand it, the language they use is very convoluted and in a way that makes it difficult for people to recognize what the plan actually is or what the agenda actually is. So, for example, one of the agendas is the sustainable cities, right? But the plan ultimately is to move everybody out of the country into these cities where they have total control. And that actually, I discovered that from someone who actually worked on writing the agenda. And she was like, oh my gosh, this is actually what's really going on. And so if you read the 2030 agenda from the perspective of what is the totalitarian plan behind it, what is the totalitarian agenda behind it, and try to read between the lines, you'll be able to see what is really going on. And the Site of Light has what's called the 2030 plan. Actually, almost finished with the book that I've been shown what the 2030 plan is, and it's like a rebuttal to the 2030 agenda, and then also what we can do to be a part of making this plan a reality. So about you and how, and we'll talk into how you got and understand all this stuff, but with the cats, you're also a psychic medium as well, and you have healing gifts. So tell us about that.
Well, I've always been different. And I actually, I'll share something with you. When I was 2 weeks old, I remember being in my crib, not being able to even roll over. And this voice was very loud in my head, but it was a consciousness, and it was a being, it was something that was outside of me, but communicating with me, because of course I couldn't understand any language. And I was actually like, well, there is so many just like me, so many just like me. And I was told at that moment that they're not all just like you. We each have our own unique, different consciousness, which makes us all different. And I know that we are consciousness and frequency, vibrational frequency, and electricity. We are, expandable outside our body. We can, remote view and use, telepathic. And when we started school, I'll start with this just to try to make some sense out of what society's trying to do to us. It really wasn't necessary for them to teach us our 5 senses. I think that was a way to control us, to make us believe we only had 5 senses. We didn't have to learn we could see, we could hear, we could taste, we didn't need to be told that. We knew that, we had that. That's instinct. They wouldn't let us have our instincts. They should have taught us the 6th sense and beyond is what classes should be. They should teach people about, inheritance, like what that means about inheriting genes and DNA and life codes or life curses, where I feel that some of us are here to make it stop here. Like if there is, bad things happening within a family, that could go on through generations because it's inside of us. It's coded inside of us now. So there's so many deep things and deep, you'll have to actually get me back on track at sometimes. Because,
so you've always known.
I can channel, the frequencies.
You've always known that you had the ability to see beyond the physical reality that everybody else was telling you was real.
Oh, yeah, because I go by my instincts. We have instincts. We have intuition. We have a little voice in our head, It's us, but it's our higher self. It's somebody we need to listen to.
Right. And that's not something that we're taught in the school system.
Not at all.
Our own inner voice, yes.
Right. We should be taught to survive. We should be taught about mental health. We should be taught about compassion, loving one another, helping one another, volunteering to save the planet. They should be taught how to garden, and just, they're doing things wrong in this world. The deep state and government. Yeah, I believe they're satanic. They go to the Bohemian Grove. They worship big 40-foot owls. There's rumors about them drinking adrenochrome. Who hasn't seen it or heard about it on the movies, right? So there's so much going on that a lot of people, they don't want to believe it. They just think conspiracy, that's all it is. Conspiracy, I believe, is like a sleeper word. That as soon as somebody hears it, they fall asleep. Like, they don't want to hear it. I also believe that, we run on frequency. So some people are on a higher frequency, and the people on the lower frequency, they get nothing but static. So it's like if you want to tune into a radio or a TV, and you're tuning in to get different channels. There's no wires or anything, and you're tuning in, you're getting live time on this device. We don't need that device to get what the device is giving us, but we have to tune into a certain frequency to get
Right.
to the channels. So I feel they're on such a lower frequency, they just can't understand what we're telling them. So, you know, I feel that some of us were sent here to awaken humanity, to try to save humanity. And you get to the point where you realize you can't take them all with you, free will.
Right. Well, a lot of us volunteered to be here to do this work to help, to be way showers, right? To be as what we call the light workers. We volunteer to be here and work on behalf of the light, to spread the light, to have the light shine bigger and bolder and brighter so that we can help wake people up. It's almost like it's like the sleep mask, right? A lot of people still have their blinds closed and they have their sleep mask on. But when there is so much light,
exactly,
it's almost impossible to stay asleep. So our role is to shine the light so bright that nobody can stay asleep. Now once everyone wakes up, my understanding is there'll become a time when there will be so much light that no one can stay asleep. Well, but once everyone wakes up, they'll then have the conscious choice, not just the default choice, the coerced choice, the manipulated choice that human beings have been experiencing for eons. This conscious choice of, yes, I want to be part of humanitarianism, that direction the planet is going, or I want to be part of their totalitarianism and the direction that is going, because we are creating two very different realities. They look almost identical, but for the really discerning eye, you can see that they are radically different and they end up in two completely different directions. And so I think what we're here is to be the light workers and to be the way showers, so that as more and more people wake up, we can help them move through this understanding. And it's interesting you bring up the word conspiracy, because that is one of those words that it kind of has a spell put on it, so that people, once they hear the word, it puts them back to sleep, or it puts the blinders on. And the word conspiracy actually means breathe together.
Uh-huh.
And really that's what it means, is that there are individuals who get together, they breathe, they speak together what it is their agenda is. And that there have always been individuals that have conspired to control the human experience. All the kings and queens of England in the 1500s, of course they were getting together and conspiring. They all intermarried with each other. It's not like it's a theory, an unproven theory. Everybody knows they all work together intentionally to keep those bloodlines in place and to plan together, right? So just that this very recently, and I think this was tested first in Nazi Germany, because if you spoke out against the Nazi movement at all, you got hung in the town centers. And so they terrified people so much that they were afraid to even think that the government was doing anything wrong, to even question what the government was doing. It was a great little petri dish for what's happening right now.
Oh, yes. It's like you wonder who the new Antichrist is, right?
Well, there have been many.
There is many.
Well, what I was shown a few years ago is that the one now is not an individual. It's not one person.
Yes, I believe that.
Right. It is it's interesting. The word that's coming in is the overseers, those who see themselves as the overseers of planet Earth. And they have their Bilderberg meeting where they all get together and decide what the experience is going to be for the rest of us.
Yeah.
And they control everything on Earth, but they can't. There are two things they can't control. They cannot control the human heart, and they cannot control a free spirit. And they can try all they want, but they can't. And they know that. They know they cannot control love, because it is the most powerful force in the universe. That's what they really want, is to be able to control that. If they can figure out how to control the human heart so that it doesn't make and express love, then they control the entire human experience. But everything they do backfires on them, because love is
I
so
feel,
powerful.
yeah, I feel the government is trying to control that.
Yes,
There's that thing.
that's exactly what the bioweapon was created to do.
Yeah, yeah, the MK Ultra, where they can just change your frequency. They can even change, the whole town's frequency by just changing the frequency on the radios and stuff,
Hmm.
and lower our frequency to put us in fear and put us in this feeling that makes us feel sick because we have to resonate at a certain frequency in order to heal ourselves, even because
Yeah.
I've been able to heal myself of so many things that the doctor said was completely incurable. They told me I was going to die so many times. um, it started with, oh, we gotta, suck out your gallbladder through a straw or something. I'm like, no, I think I might need that someday. And I never needed it out. That was like 30 years ago. Then my gallbladder. Then they said, there was a problem with that. Then there was my thyroid. They said, let us give you radiated iodine and cut you from ear to ear and remove your thyroid. I said, no, what if I heal it? So it took me about a month. I juiced. I fasted first, then I juiced, and you got to put in the proper, powder vitamins and magnesium and D and all those things that are necessary for your body. And you got to reset your body by juicing the right things like ashwagandha and different, you know, if you have brain problems, you use lion's mane. And if you have lung problems, you use shagwa mushroom. So I got into natural cures. I got off 15 pharmaceuticals. Um, then they said I had, 7 kidney stones. Some are 12 by 12, like big around as my pinky tip. Wanted to send me in for surgery. I would have been in recovery for about 6 weeks. I said, what if I dissolve them myself? So I did. It took me about 3 months. And with marshmallow root and stone breaker, I was able to dissolve all the stones. My husband had brought me into the hospital for a panic attack, which I seem to get a lot of since our house got destroyed. And they did ultrasounds and CAT scans. They said, you said she had kidney stones. And he said, yeah. They said, there's 7 void spots there with nothing there. What is she doing?
Hmm.
So I told him what I was doing. And then it just continued. I ended up with bilateral bacterial pneumonia like 3 times when our house first got destroyed. And like I said, it's been 6 years living like this. And I was put on a hospice, and it was like a chronic critical care hospice. And they gave me 4 months. They told me, you're going to be on breathing machines. You're not going to survive for more than 4 months. So I figured I'd cure that too. I elderberry, shagwa mushrooms, and also cannabis oil. I used cannabis oil a lot to cure a lot of things. And next thing you know, I went to the hospital and they put the pulse ox on my finger and my oxygen level was 100. They said, what the hell are you doing? Nobody has an oxygen level of 100. My doctor ended up firing me because it was a conflict of interest of me not going for the surgeries and healing myself. But I did find a nice doctor that approves of my alternative medicine and my healing. And he knows, what I am and what I do. And he believes in me, which, what more can you ask, especially of a doctor?
Yeah, that's great. So let me ask you this. I'm trying to see how much time we have left. Oh, we have enough time to get into a few more things. What do you see now coming in the near future? Because this is how we
Yeah.
reconnected. There's a post that I put on Facebook about, the heads up that something's
Oh
coming.
God. Yeah.
So
Like, don't
tell
look
me
up.
what you're seeing coming and what you think people need to do to be prepared for what's coming.
Well, I do believe that because of the wars going on, every 80 years, there's a major war. If you look and see when all the wars took place, from the Civil War to World War I, two, to where we're at now, it's all spaced out between 80 years. It seems like every 1,000 years or so, there's a major extinction level event going on. And Personally, I haven't read the Bible because I'm dyslexic and have a problem sounding words out and comprehending, but I understand it. I understand it. And I know we're at the end of the book. A lot of things are coming true. Um, People, they need to stop having such a love for money over life. And they need to realize that love, that's really the number one thing. Because when we pass in this temporary human form that we have to be in, it, think of it as a test. We go and we become and we go back to our natural form, because energy doesn't die.
Right.
Energy just goes back to another form. And we will go on, and we do go on. That's how I channel. I actually have been able to sense things like an animal. Maybe it's because I live with so many animals. I've always had a love for animals. Um, they're a lot more compassionate than people. A lot of them. Uh, so, uh, what I would tell people to do is stock up on food, water. Make sure you have a water for a source, some kind of outdoor spring, or a way that you can at least filter water. Because he who controls the food controls the world, and especially when they control the water, they control the people. We're just collateral to them. You have to be your own advocate. You got to take care of your own health choices. Um, if I stayed on all that medication, if I was still on the Philips CPAP machine, now I hear there's a class action lawsuit that it was causing cancer and kidney problems. No, you got to be your own advocate. You got to know what's right and wrong. You got to realize that, all chemicals and pharmaceuticals came from plants. Food is thy medicine. The government's trying to control us all. It's a damn shame. um, you wonder, it's definitely a fight between good and evil,
Mhm.
light and dark. And you got to find your tribe. You got to find your people. This is the time. Like minded people that can watch out for each other and let each other know what's going on. Because with all the solar flares and everything that's going on, and, the rumors of war, and Russia threatening to shoot at our satellites. I mean, what happens when that all goes down? You got just a matter of hours before the whole world turns into chaos.
Right.
There's earthquakes and volcanoes, and they're going off more than they ever had. The world and the climate change is it's shifting so quickly that they say that we're even moving as farther and farther away from Ireland. As fast as your fingernails grow. That's what they're saying. That's how fast and far it's spreading. The ice caps are melting. We all know this is happening. All the major hurricanes, like I said, people just have to be prepared. They have to have a plan. They have to know where their evacuation routes are and just be prepared for everything. I'd recommend just to, have on hand while you can get it is, why not have a little iodine? You never know what might happen. That's all I'm saying. If it's not
Right.
from somebody else that's evil, it might be, from the universe, because things are happening up there right now that we don't have any control over.
Right. So let me ask you this about the climate change. And as I've told my audience in the past, if you don't think climate change is real, then pull your head out of the sand, because there are climate change deniers. And but I've been around long enough to watch personally how much climate has changed. My understanding, however, and let's talk about this, that
Yes.
climate change is real, but what they're not talking about is the reason behind it, the climate
Oh,
manipulation that's happening, that's
I could
causing
tell.
climate change.
I could tell you that. So, if anybody hasn't noticed, because people used to yell at me and call me conspiracy theorist all the time, they've been spraying the skies since 2001. They've been putting up a smoke screen. Let me tell you, they at first were, using their little weapons of mass destruction in there too, and putting particles, nanoparticles, and nano dust, smart dust. And they're called chemtrails, and they're filled with strontium, aluminum, barium, lithium. And, they like to play around with other stuff in there every once in a while. So, they've been able to do this. They've been allowed to experiment on us for some reason forever. We all know this is true. So with the chemtrails, and they threw some Morgellons in there to drive some people crazy. I cured that too. And yeah, I'll tell you. So they put up that for several reasons. One, they've got this HARP. It's called the High-Aurorous Atmospheres Research Program, and it's a very high frequency radio. They have big radio towers, and they can send these high frequencies over that interact with the storms and the chemicals in the storms. So strontium, that's something that they, it brings in moisture. So, brings in other clouds, creates bigger storms. I feel that there's different areas they put these over where they want these big storms because they want to flood a lot of us out. They also don't want us farming no more. They don't want us growing. I couldn't even look. I got like 2 peppers and I didn't even get a tomato.
Oh shoot, we lost your sound.
What?
Lost your sound.
Oh no. How do I get my sound back? I don't know why the sound is gone. Am I back?
You're back. Yeah, you're back.
All right, I'm back.
Yeah, so, and I think that's the reason that Bill Gates bought all the farmland he could all across America, because they're really trying to control the entire food industry. What a lot of people don't realize is that the entire food industry is now owned and controlled by 4 what I call chemical companies. And pharmaceutical companies are just chemical companies. Let's say it like it is. That 4 chemical companies run and control the entire food industry for the entire planet. And buying farms, they really don't want people being out in the country and out in the farmlands, and that's why we have the storms and the firestorms, which is really to get people out of the countryside and into the cities.
Oh yeah, out in California,
they're more manageable, right?
Oh yeah, they're trying everything they can. People really need to look at the ingredients in their food if they want to survive. I mean, anything that says carcinogens, look up carcinogens and see what the word actually means. It's a cancer-causing agent. You got to look if there's, red dye 40, caramel coloring. I personally don't like maltodextrin. This stuff is saccharose. You got to get rid of this stuff. You got to look at ingredients. Organic is the best way to go if you can get organic. If there's 5 simple ingredients, that's actually what you should look for in your food. Start looking at the boxes and see what kind of garbage is in there. Don't feed it to your kids or your pets.
Well, the other thing that's interesting too, what a lot of people don't understand is the term natural ingredients, but that anything can be hidden in the term natural ingredients.
Oh God, yes.
And plant-based does not mean it's 100% plant. So those are just little trick words that are used to get people to think they're putting something healthy in their body when it's really just another way of hiding the chemistry.
Yeah, it's marketing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I heard that if they say it's natural, they can have 5% natural, and that's all they need.
Mm-hmm.
The rest can be all garbage. And people don't realize what you put in your body. You are what you put in your body. Food is the medicine. That's what food always was you are what you eat. Just remember that, and feed your kids healthy if you want them to grow up without any illnesses. There's a lot of autoimmune diseases going on out there, and it's probably because the food's poison, the air is poison, the water's poison. What are you going to do? The only thing you can do is be aware and try to protect yourselves and protect the ones you love, and the ones that you can wake up. Hopefully they'll listen.
Well, and I think too, what I remind a lot of people is that just because this is what the agenda is, doesn't mean that's going to be what comes to fruition.
Exactly.
It's important to understand what's happening right beneath our noses and right beneath our feet so that we can make better choices. Because ultimately, as we all know, how we vote with our money. And
Right.
if we want to know where do we find the power to change things, it's with our money. We vote by making conscious choices with where we spend and invest our money. And I've seen so many companies have to change the way they produce products because, well, a lot of it is because of moms. And moms are like, I'm not going to give that to my kids. And so they've actually had to change to follow suit because consumers actually drive the industry. So if we don't like things being the way they are, we need to make better choices about that. And when enough has changed, make better choices, all of those old practices will have no choice but to come to an end. Oh, and here's one other thing I wanted to talk about before I forget. Talking about things coming, as you were saying, the 80 years between wars, and that is time for another one. The other thing that someone shared with me a couple of days ago is that the numerology that's happening right now, the star charts, I think, is what's happening right now, is exactly the same star alliance that occurred during the 1929 global economic crash, the Great Depression.
Oh yeah, there's definitely, you could see it, you can feel it. The housing market's so high, people can't afford houses, people can't afford to take care of their kids or anything anymore. There's so many people that are homeless. I see it. I mean, it's a shame. The economy's got to change. Things have got to get better one way or another because America's failing.
Well, and
We're failing its
it's not
people.
just America. So one of the things that I've been watching, because I also watch the economics as well, is that the economic system of the entire planet is
Yeah.
going through upheaval. It's interesting because a lot of people don't realize that all these banks are actually failing, and the whole banking industry across the planet is starting to panic because it's it's funny they use the word sustainable living. We want to have sustainable living, sustainable housing, sustainable all this. It's that the word sustaining actually means to maintain the status quo, and
Yeah.
sustaining isn't good enough.
Right.
Sustaining just means keeping things the way they are, mere
Yeah.
sustenance for most of humanity. What we want is to create expansion. You want to create prosperity, not just sustainability. We want to
Right.
generate planet, not just sustain the planet. And so it's interesting when they use those words. And what's interesting is that the banking industry right now is not sustaining, and none of our systems are. They're all. My understanding is every single one of them is getting ready to collapse. It's all of the patriarchal.
Cashless
All these
society.
systems were based in fear and based in this patriarchal pyramid, and they're all getting ready to crumble.
Yeah. Yeah. And they want to go cashless. They want to like make a one world currency, but it's not going to work out because everybody's fighting. So there's no way that they're going to all get together and make peace to make a one world currency when nobody can get along. And I just wanted to share one more thing, um, that it's easier to tell people than for me to do it myself, but we can actually create the world that we want
Right.
because we are being controlled by the outside world, and we shouldn't let those things even interfere with our inner peace. We can, the way you see things, if you see something different, that thing will change. So you got to start looking at the good in everything, and live life like your best life. Just try to do the things that you love, because a lot of people are very, very depressed, and they're going through a lot of emotional suffering. I'm one of them, where I've had nervous breakdown after nervous breakdown. It's hard when you start allowing all this stuff, to burden you, when there's not a thing that you can really do about it, but personally and in your own life and with your own family and friends. So I just want to say, realize that you can make your world a better place by getting in a better mindset, and realize that the only thing we take with us are these memories and our feelings, and try to get back in the feeling of love. because I know during this pandemic, a lot of people were isolated and they lost their ways and they lost themselves.
When a lot of people have lost loved ones.
Oh, I've lost a lot too.
Yeah.
My dad had passed. My mom has Alzheimer's right now, and it's really sad. Or she has dementia, which is a form of Alzheimer's. So the family's been going through a lot, a lot. My baby, who I love more than anything, Christy Ruggiero, she's a famous tattoo artist and so beautiful, and she's married to this great guy. And she moved to Ireland during the pandemic. She eloped, and so there was a while, a year or two, where I didn't get to see her, and it was really hard, but thank God we have, the internet, so we can keep in touch. So, if you haven't talked to somebody in a long time and you've been mad at them, and you think you could just get past it, maybe you should reach out and just, say hi again.
Yeah, and I think this time that we've been living in was created intentionally to keep us divided and keep us separated from each other, and really all that we have are those relationships. It's the love that's in our life and the love that's in our hearts. And so be willing to reach out and maybe don't go into those conversations that are going to inflame division between you and your family members, and have conversations about the things you do have in common and that you do love and that you do experience. And so many people think they have to wake up their friends and they have to wake up their family. We don't have to do that anymore. Every person will wake up when it's their time and come to this understanding when it's their time. It is not our job to wake people up and to force our beliefs down their throat. If we do that, that doesn't make us any better than anyone else. It doesn't, it's the news, the job of the news is to promote fear, to keep humanity in fear, and to keep us divided and conquered, and
to keep us low vibrational frequency, keep us
right, and forcing their dogma in a sense on us. But if we go and we try to force our beliefs onto other people, that isn't helpful either. The thing is that in the relationships that we're in is to always hold those around us in love and want what's best for them, and not feel like we constantly have to prove ourselves right. This is one of the things I've seen in the so-called awakened American communities. It's constant need to prove themselves right. And there's almost an arrogance about that. And rather than feeling like we have to wake everybody up, let's just love everyone where they are. That love heals all wounds. Have the conversations about the things we do agree on, the things we do love, and rekindle those relationships with our family and with our friends, because that's the most important thing in the world. Being right is not important. Having love is. So let's pass the arrogance of having to be right and come back to remembering that love is the most important thing in the world.
That's
and come
right.
together and have these beautiful conversations about the things we do agree on rather than the things we don't agree on.
Right. That's beautiful. People, it's so true. The government had even told us they wanted to divide families and conquer and divide, right? But united we stand, and that's what we need to do. Families need to get back together and start listening to each other's needs and emotions, and be more compassionate and love more, and realize that that's worth more than money or any possession that you can have on this planet.
That's right. Yep. Because all there really is love, and the rest is an illusion created to keep us in fear. So
That's exactly
remember what's really important.
Yep. So it's been a great conversation with you. I loved meditating in the beginning, and people, I think when you get really stressed out, it helps me, and I think people should also learn how to meditate when they're getting stressed out. There's too many crimes going on in the world. I also know a lot of people. I mean, a lot. I'm almost losing count of the amount of people that are committing suicide that I know personally. I've talked to some of these people prior, and I had no idea that they were even planning on doing something like that. Recently, it was a young boy. I had known him his whole life, and he was upset because his girlfriend did it. And then he went and did it. This was about a month ago. And that's why love is so, so, so important. People don't realize they need to listen to people and understand them with compassion and help them, even if it's just to listen to them. Because a lot of people are suffering, they're having a hard time the way the world is right now. And we need to get our family units back together. It seems like people don't celebrate the holidays like they used to. They put like these crazy laws down on us, but we can't let them take our rights away. We
That's
got
right.
to go back to the way it was when everybody was close and loving and thought about everybody
Yeah.
besides themselves and money and possession. So
Well, and
hopefully the world will get better.
that's what fear does. Fear divides. And the more of us who remember to come back to love, um, that brings us back together. It reconnects the human hearts, and there isn't anything that can stop that. When enough people focus on love and unity rather than fear and division, then we will change the world. And we just have to remember that that is ultimately the goal. The goal is to bring the world back to peace and love and harmony and unity and oneness, and that everything else is just an illusion based in fear.
Exactly.
So it's been wonderful having you here this morning. It's been great getting to know you off Facebook and live and in person. And thank you for
Well,
sharing
thank
your
you.
brilliance and for what you know and the beautiful presence that you are on the planet. And do you do you have a way, or do you want people to try to reach out to you for any reason, or you were just here purely from the generosity of your heart?
Oh, yeah. No, I'm just here to help share the message and hope humanity gets back on track and that people start, showing more compassion and love.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here. And for all of you who are watching, as I always say, remember to hold your light so high others can't help but see their own light. Together, we are creating a world of peace, love, harmony, freedom, prosperity for all life on earth. And as always, get bold, be fearless, and live free.
Bye.